Okay, let me paint a picture for you. You're an agent. You're juggling clients, you're juggling contracts, chaos, content, all of it, right? Maybe you're even a team leader wondering, am I doing this right? Well, if you felt like you're meant to build something bigger, and maybe you feel like the time is right now because your to-do list is absolutely out of control, I want you to stay in this episode because this is your reset button to get all of it together and get out of chaos and into clarity.
Yep. If your days feel full but unfocused, then you definitely got to stay with us for this episode. We are going to break down how to simplify your week, create content that actually drives business, and build habits that move you forward. So, who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Welcome back to Take It and Run. This is the show built for agents who want clear direction, simple habits, and real momentum. Today is not all about hype, though. It's about execution, and we have a phenomenal guest with us.
Yes, this is like a have your notes, however you take notes ready, like kind of episode, not just because you're gonna like want to capture everything. We give you everything that you need, but because like one idea applied will definitely change your next 30 days.
Yeah, we're joined today by the one and only Katie Day. She's a top real estate agent, team leader, mentor, speaker, event planner, mom. I think I actually ran out of space when I was typing in all the things that she does, but what I appreciate most about her is how down to earth she is, how willing to help everybody, and she creates systems that support real life, which I think is who our listeners are.
Yeah. So in other words, she's someone who keeps things practical, what works, what doesn't, and how to focus on the right moves at the right time. So we've talked a lot about her. Katie, who are you? What do you do?
Introduce yourself.
What's up? I feel like I don't have to say anything after that intro. You kind of covered it all. But I am a real estate agent. I run a team based out of Houston, Texas, and I have two kids. I'm married, and then everything else that y'all just said, just controlling the chaos on a daily basis.
I love it. Okay, well, I'm so grateful that you're here. I was on Katie's podcast. If you don't know about it, what's the podcast? Introduce them so they can make sure to go like it and
Yeah, for
listen.
sure. For sure. For sure. You were on the Real Advice podcast. And so, we try to have like 20 to 30-minute episodes, just kind of digging into practical, advice that people can implement into their business.
Yeah. So I was on Katie's podcast, but before I was on Katie's podcast, I like secretly watch all of the things that she does. And I say secret because I don't reach out a lot to her for help or anything because I know she's so busy. But I'm always referring to her in coaching calls, always sending links of like, hey, R&D this, right? Rip off and duplicate because she shares everything. Or if you're not subscribed to her newsletter, you want to get subscribed to her newsletter because she also drops all the webinars she's doing, all of the events. But um, I've been following along for a long time, and the first question right out the gate that I have for you, Katie, this is a big one,
All right.
is you. In fact, let me ask you this: how long have you been creating content? Just for some context here.
For sure. So I got into real estate. I got licensed and then got in full time in 2017. And so I've pretty much been creating content the entire time. The level or quality of it hasn't always been great, but it was something that I always knew I needed to do. So, it's 8, 9 years of real estating and content.
Okay. So as long as I've known of Katie, I've always known I was like, oh, she's the one that does the video. All of that kind of stuff. And like I said, I refer back to it a lot. So my first question for you is for the agent who maybe has dabbled, right? They've tried a couple things, they haven't done a lot, they don't have a content plan like you do, or people in your network probably do. With everything that you've learned over the 8 years that you mentioned, if you were to start over today, you have no audience, you have no leads, you have no momentum, right? Like you have nothing going for you content wise. How would you structure the next 30 days?
Yeah, that's a loaded question and also interesting because at the beginning or at the end of 2024, going into 2025, I started a brand new account on Instagram. to see, right? Because it's like all day long I'm talking to agents, teaching agents, and kind of coaching them on content strategy. And like I know the things that you should do, but kind of as my content had evolved over the years, I wasn't necessarily doing those things that I was telling other people to do, right? And so it's like, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. And so I was like, hey, you know what, I'm going to try this out. I'm not going to tell anyone about it, and I'm going to see how it goes. And I know you're on the road a lot with Tom and Jason and Jimmy, and like they found out about the account a few months in, and I was like, no, like stop telling people about it, I don't want people to know. And Jimmy was getting mad at me because I was like telling him to stop talking about it. um but the entire idea behind that account is I'm doing hyper local news style content with like a green screen and background behind me that has images, and it's very easy to make. But I think that if you aren't making content or you haven't seen the traction that you want to see with content, I would focus in on niching down on your content, right? And so right now, what we're seeing on Instagram and even on Facebook for some people is that a specific niche of content and type of content that's repeatable and doing it over and over again, whether that's a couple times a week or every single day, is outperforming and so much more than the people that are like, Kristi's like, oh, I'm just going to do a video a day of just some random stuff. And sometimes it's going to be a home tour, and other times it's going to be a new restaurant. Sometimes it's going to be this. And so like gone are the days of the like 5 pillars of content and posting one video,
Ooh.
kind of thing. You need to pick a pillar or pick a thing and do it very frequently. And so again, like the new style content, I'm doing it every single day. But like an Alyssa Kernut, she's doing maybe 1 to 3 feed posts a week of hyper local on scene style reporting in Washington, right? Like Sam RP out of Boston is doing 1 to 2 video tours a week. Like you don't have to necessarily post every single day in order to gain an audience and have traction, but you just really need to, at first at least, niche down and figure out the thing that you can be like known for. And then once you build that audience, you can branch out and do other things and test content and try out stuff. But like when you're first starting out or first restarting out, I would definitely recommend focusing in on one specific thing at first.
So you mentioned Sam RP, and I've watched a lot of his. He's got the video, like the tour, right?
Yep, home tours.
And Alyssa's doing that hyper local news, but like on the scene news. You're doing the green screen hyper local restaurants and what's happening, events, and all that kind of stuff that's all in and around Houston. Are, I'm struggling to think of other niches that they could apply.
Yeah, I mean, as far as other things, I think that there's just kind of iterations of those things, right? So, the one other one that we're seeing right now that's performing pretty well is like the faceless creator, right? And so that would be either B-roll style content. So, like if you live in like, Hawaii or, Southern California or somewhere that's a super, beautiful place, then it makes it a lot easier than, if you live in a concrete jungle. But even that has some positives, right? Like, joking, but like, New York City, like there's some gorgeous parts about New York, right? So the faceless creator thing, it has also kind of taken off. And so like Sam RP is one who he's doing home tours that are faceless, like Roland, Osage. Like there are many people that are doing that, but like what I'm referring to is more so like the B-roll style, where you're basically taking either like a very slow walking shot where you're holding your phone very still and walking forward or backward, or taking and just panning from left to right very slowly. That type of B-roll content where you're highlighting like the beach or a local restaurant or the river, or in Arizona maybe it's a lake, right? Like the different things of like um, the things that people would love about where you live. And then on that type of content, you would have like some sort of caption on the video. And like right now, what's kind of hot is like POV, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
like the point of view of like you loving this thing about this place. And then the captions are normally pretty long, and so you can use AI to create all of that. You can be like, hey, I'm trying to do a POV thing for this community. What do I write? And then help me with a really long caption, and it'll give it all to you. And then you can kind of just edit it so it sounds a little bit more like you, and post it. And a lot of people are seeing a lot of traction with that, especially because it's very shareable. So I think the key to all of it, in my really long-winded response, is like super shareable content that you would want to share with your best friend or your partner or someone like that.
Yeah, shares and saves. And that's actually, it's so funny you should say that, but I actually have a post-it that's like, how can I create more content that's savable and
Yeah.
shareable?
Yeah.
So,
No, I think that the most important thing is the shares and the saves. Gone are the days that followers matter, subscribers on YouTube don't even matter. It's really if people are sharing and saving your content. And so when you're creating, especially for like Instagram or TikTok, you know, you want to think about the stuff that like your ideal client avatar would be liking and sharing. And often that's like, it's you, right? Like you are your own ideal avatar. And so I always think about like, what are the things that I would share with my friends? What are the things like I had a friend send me one the other day that was like a martini glass and a wine glass cheersing. And it was like this and yap. And she like sent it to me like, this is so us. And like, I responded, I'm like, neither of us drink. Like, it is us, but like, why are you sharing this with me when neither of us drink? Like, that's kind of funny, right? But it was like, the aesthetic of the restaurant was a place that we would want to go to. There were a bunch of apps on the table, which is like, I love doing that. So, you just want to think about like going really deep on who you are trying to attract and then creating that content that they would share with their best friend, or they would share with their spouse, or they would share, with their whoever it may be. And again, that's something that like you can go very deep with chat or with AI to define who that is based on who you've worked with, that you've liked working with and not liked working with, because sometimes like we're too far into it to be able to determine who that is, right? And so you have to kind of take that bird's eye view and have AI kind of assist you in that process.
Yeah, I like that.
So there's the questions that came to mind for me are actually, there's a two-parter. One, because you said gone are the days of, likes and subscribers and followers, it made me think of like, what have you seen with hashtags? Because I've seen back and forth whether hashtags are dead, but then I see like top accounts using them and I'm like, what do we do? What do you use hashtags?
So if we're talking specifically about Instagram, Adam Mosseri has gone on record recently and said that hashtags are dead. Like there's no reason to use them. The hashtag like follow me and for you page and like things like that like don't matter. But I always hashtag my stuff with my brand name, right? So like if it's a Move Me to Texas post and I'm posting a property tour, I hashtag it Move Me to Texas, hashtag Houston real estate, right? If it's a Houston Unlocked post, every single post that we've put on that page has hashtag Houston Unlocked. And I do that simply because that gives a consumer a few more ways to be able to like go down that rabbit hole of my content. So one would be like they watch it, then they click my username, and then they just start scrolling, right? But if it's something where they've clicked the thing and now they're reading the caption and it's a long caption, the hashtag at the bottom of the caption gives them the opportunity to be able to click that and then see all of the posts that we've posted on our account. So it's not necessarily something that I'm using to gain a new audience, but it's something that I personally am using to be able to have some brand recognition, or I guess I don't know what the best way to describe it would be, but like some way to go like down the rabbit hole on the brand other than just clicking, on it. And so, I think that people have gotten really lazy. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like when I'm scrolling on whether it's TikTok or Instagram or doom scrolling at night, like I very rarely like posts anymore. Like I watch it, I'm like, oh, I liked that. I like it in my head, but I don't double tap and scroll. I just keep scrolling. Right. And so it takes a lot for me to click onto a page. It takes a lot for me to click on to, to like it or to, do whatever and engage with it. So, I just want to try to have as many places in which you could go down that rabbit hole if you wanted to.
Yeah, especially now that liking it is kind of public. Like I can see how some
That
people I
part, yes.
follow who I'm not even like really truly friends with in person, I see a video they like and I'm like, "Oh, that's your entertainment. Okay, I didn't need to see that." But I'm like highly aware of that with myself now. Okay, great. Thank you for answering that question because and that just came to me. But so Kristi was asking you about that hyper local, all those different types of um content, like that one content pillar instead of the five. How much research should agents be doing to come up with that content? Like what's the prep work look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on how the amount of research you should be doing depends on how much content you want to put out, right? And so, if I like to think of content as like an additional lead pillar, an additional thing, and so part of that for me is researching content. Then part of it's scripting and actually shooting it. Part of it's editing, and then part of it's posting, and then part of it's engaging, right? And so each one of those things takes time. And so at least for me, what works the best is saying, okay, like not necessarily like this is the day of the week that I research content, but basically like every day I have a little bit of time where I research and I read the news and I use AI's help to search for content and look for things and see like things that are would be of interest to my followers, right? And then I'll script out all of those stories, right? And so often if I'm sitting at my on my desktop, it's like I'll have the news thing up and I'll have, different web pages up and I'll have chat up and I'll have perplexity and like just different pages up, and then I'll have a bunch of stories on tabs across my browser. And then once I say, oh, hey, here are 10 stories that are interesting that would appeal to my audience, then what I do is I will take every single one of those and copy paste them into chat and make scripts. And then I'll take those 10 and I'll sit with my phone and I'll record all 10, and so it's like I batch them by thing, because like um oftentimes, and I'm sure Kristi talks a lot about this, like if you're switching from task to task to task to task, you're not really that efficient. And so for me, it's like if I do all of my research at first, then all of my scripting, then all of my shooting, then all of my editing, I can get it done a lot faster than like trying to go round and round the circle, as opposed to just staying in each stage for a little bit longer.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. As a follow-up to that, are you using anything like Answer the Public or Google Trends? Or, I mean, for your news style, I guess it's kind of teeing you up because you probably are sending an agent out, like a Perplexity, sending it out to capture what it is, and it's delivering it to you. Then you're just going through and figuring out which ones you want to cover. But for an agent that's doing some of these other niche that want to be more answer engine optimized, like, are you doing any of that, or do you see, because I think that's where I find most of my agents fall apart, is I'm like, you need to be answering the questions that people are asking. They're like, humana humana humana, like,
Yeah.
how do I do that?
Yeah. So a couple of different ways in which you can do that. And so obviously Jason Pantana coaches on how you can take all of the things and then automate it out to be like, here are all the questions, give me all the blogs, give me all the posts, give me all the scripts. The problem with like Instagram content is like me talking about like the home buying process and the contract process. Like no one's going to watch that, right? No one's going to share that with their spouse to be like, oh, look, listen to Katie talking about earnest money. Like that was very like 2020, 2021 content that like did really well. And like I laugh now seeing some of those videos where I'm like talking about like home inspections and stuff like that. Like it doesn't necessarily perform very well now, but like in written form, in blog form on your website, like is very good, because all of the AI reads it and like then says that like Kristi knows everything about the home buying process, right? Um, so as far as for like news articles, I source them in a few different ways. The first is I have Google Alerts set up for keywords. So like that would be, Houston real estate, Houston new construction, Houston development, and then different towns around Houston. You can set up, different Google alerts for that. And you simply would just go to alerts.google.com and like you can set them up. It's very simple. You could also Google how to do it, but like it's literally like you type in the keyword and then you say how often you want that email. And so for me, I have it daily. So I have that comes through every morning and every afternoon, and I'll just kind of read it, because like if there's breaking news, I don't want to wait for like the time in which I may hop into chat or Perplexity and like ask it to go find me stories. Like I just want them to come to me immediately. And so Google Alerts is just kind of tried and true. It's free with a Gmail account, and so it's something that you don't have to go like create a custom GPT or create agent mode something in AI, right? Very simple. The second thing that I do is I read the news every day. I'll do a little bit of scrolling on Instagram that I like to call research, and see like what's popping up in my algorithm, as far as news based stuff. But I'll hop into the local Houston publications, like our Culture Map one, which is more food and entertainment. I'll hop into the Houston Business Journal. I'll hop into the Houston Chronicle, and I'll read the news, read like what's being reported on. Also sometimes too, like what's performing on their accounts. If I see something that they posted, I'm like, oh, that didn't really think that was an important news story, but like it's getting a ton of engagement. I'm like, okay, I should probably do a video on that. So I'll kind of do that type of research. And then finally, the AI portion. So using AI, you can create either just asking it, right, to do this, or you can create a custom GPT where you say, basically, hey, like source me news articles in, city and state, or in my county, or in my town, or whatever, however small or big you want the geographic region to be. And then you can give it more parameters. And so you would basically tell it to give you news articles based on these, types of things. you would ask it to I'm trying to think of other things that I have in the it's since I don't prompt it every day, I don't have it all top of mind. You would then ask it to keep a rolling memory or take those articles that they're giving you and put them into a Google spreadsheet. I might be getting a little, 201 here. But like local news, government and planning, lifestyle and business, look at local content creators and things that are, reporting, stuff like that. Um, and then you can also tell it like you want things that are share worthy or you want things that appeal to whatever your target demographic is. So if you're like 35 to 45 with 2 kids with this and that, blah 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 blah, like you can get very specific on what you're looking for. And then whether it's chat or perplexity or whatever your go to AI engine is, feed that into it, and then it'll source stories for you. I just oftentimes it gives me the stories that I've already read. So it's like I don't
Yeah,
often use AI for the finding of the stories because frequently I already have them that I've read or saved.
that makes sense. Okay, so a couple more questions on content before we switch topics. So, what do you think that agents are spending time on in terms of content right now that they should cut immediately? Like, what's a practice that you still see happening? Hashtag still happening. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I refer back to my previous answers. No, I mean I think hashtags are one because I do see some posts where it's like at the bottom they have like all kinds of hashtags. The algorithms are getting so wild that like sometimes it's the captions, but other times it's what you're actually saying in the video. You know how like a lot of the platforms auto caption, like TikTok auto caption, so it's like reading and listening to what you're saying. That's actually they're using that as opposed to like what your caption is and what your hashtags are. So like hashtags are something that I would say like you don't need to use them. Um, I think the informative stuff, like we were talking about that, right? That like we want to be optimized for not SEO but AEO, answer engine optimization, and AI. And so I think that people, I still see a lot of it, right? Of like, hey, this is the contract process. This is what inspections look like type content. And I think that all of the energy that you're putting into that of shooting of content, it should be written and it should be blogged and it should be on your, website or your blog or whatever that may be. And so it's super easy to make a blog, whether you're going to like a WordPress or, it's just on your insert, whatever your, lofty luxury presence agent image, whatever your website is, like there's always a blog tab and most agents just never use it. It's very easy to start using it.
I love that. I thought she was going to say dancing on countertops, but we'll go with that.
If that works for you and you actually get business from it, that's great. Oftentimes I don't believe that business is coming from it, but not not my not my fight today.
I love it.
I like that. I like, if it's working, go for it. If it's
Yeah.
not, you fill in the rest. So kind of like along those lines, there's a lot of agents out there who get stuck because they're trying to be the video editor, producer, but they're also trying to sell real estate, be a team leader, and be a functioning adult at the same time. What would you say to the people who are doing that? What should they be doing personally, and what should they be hiring out or systematizing, automating out, so that they're not wearing so many hats and not making the money that they probably should be doing what they're in real estate for?
I don't think that there's a one size fits all answer to that, unfortunately, right? Because I think that there are some people that are really good at things that they may be able to do it a lot faster than others. So an example would be like in the content creation process, right? Like I can edit a video pretty quickly. So the content process that I went through earlier of like sourcing and then scripting and then shooting, editing, and posting. Like if you said, hey, do these 5 videos, I could probably get them done. I could definitely get them done in less than an hour, but I could probably get them done in 30 minutes or less. Like if we were like, okay, let's set a timer and see how quickly you could do this. Like I could probably do it in like 30 minutes or less. Right. But like I know for some people, if I were to tell you like, hey, Kristi, go shoot and do all of that for 5 videos, that could maybe take you all day long. Right. And so I think that like knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are is important. And so oftentimes just because like Kristi knows that I edit my video, she's like, well, I need to edit mine as well. She's going to spend all day doing that. Like But if she's really good with her clients and gets a ton of referrals, then like maybe her time shouldn't be spent editing videos. It should be spent making calls to her clients and sphere, and simply having a VA or AI source her videos for her, or her scripts for her, scripting them for her, and then maybe she shoots them, maybe she has AI do them, and then like a VA edits them and those are being posted, and her sphere is seeing them and they're talking to her about them on the phone when they're having a conversation because she's calling her clients every day, right? Like I think too often people get caught up in like whether it's content or whatever else, like, oh, Kristi's doing this, so I want to do this, but it's not like their thing, or they're not good at it, or that doesn't bring them any business. And I think a lot of agents get caught up with content creation, but like they've been making videos for 5 years and never gotten any deals from them.
Okay, so here's something I just heard you say, like know your zone of greatness. It
Yeah.
would bring me no joy to edit 5 videos.
Yeah.
Like zero. Like I mean,
Negative energy.
yeah, no, for real. Like that, oh my gosh. If I have to open Zapier, there better be tacos and margaritas and nerd clusters because it's gonna
Not sure how those things are aligned, but I'm here for it.
this is my emotional Zapier support tools.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, so she said, "What's your zone of greatness?" Right? Like I like people. Like that's I love how you put that. Just because Katie is editing her own videos doesn't mean Kristi needs to edit her own videos. So you really have to play to your strengths and where that time goes. I am curious though, because you have such a large network and I would argue you just have such a great reach and very well respected. You probably run into a lot of people though that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and they're holding on to things that they could let go. Why do you think agents wait so long to get support?
I think that's a tough one. I know for me, I'll speak for myself, right? Like I know for me, there have been times in which I continued on the path that I'm on because I think that it's the right path, right? Or I'm nervous or concerned about what other people would think if I changed off that path, right? And so like oftentimes, we should be making decisions based on how they impact our bottom line and how they impact our team and our family and ourselves, right? But often we create goals or do things based upon what other people think. And so a good example for me is like for many years my goals were based upon going to seminars and going to conferences and doing things, and like, Kristi, you go up on stage and you say that your team sold, $100 million. I'm like, okay, my goal is now $100 million.
101 million.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I need to one up you. You're right. No, but so I hear the thing and I'm like, okay, now I want to be $100 million team. But like at the end of the day, like there's no actual anything behind that other than hearing someone else say something and then now that's my goal, you know? And so like I think a lot of people get into that with teams. Like they have a team because so and so said they should have a team because they sell a lot of real estate, but like they don't like managing people. Or like you just said, like you're like, do not put me in Zapier. Like I'm just gonna tell you the things that need to happen. And like, Kelsey's like gonna like put it together in Zapier and like I'm not gonna touch it because I'm just gonna break it. Right.
She doesn't want me to touch it because I will
Exactly.
break it.
But you know that, and like you understand that, and so you don't do it, right? And those aren't necessarily like apples to apples of a great metaphor, but I think too often for me, or too long for me, my goals and what I wanted out of my business was based upon like what I've heard other people say they're doing in their business. I'm like, oh well, I want to do that too, so I'm just going to make that my goal. Or oh, we should have 25 people because so and so said that they have 25 people. And I think over the past few years for me, I've realized like, okay, I need a certain amount of money to live comfortably and enjoy the things that I enjoy, right? And my sneaker budget and stuff like that. I need like, and that's not necessarily a team of 25. That's not necessarily selling 400 homes a year, 500 homes a year. Like that's 150 homes, and that's reducing our expenses, and that's like focusing on the things that actually move the needle. And um, that's not for me working 7 days a week, all day, every day anymore. So I don't know that was necessarily a direct answer to your question, but I think that to summarize it all, it's like I think that people aren't making they aren't asking for help because they like want to keep their head down and give the impression that everything's like going swimmingly when it may not be.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate that you share that because I haven't actually talked a lot of, I actually don't think I've talked about it publicly at all. When I decided to not have a team anymore, held on to, like Kelsey knows because she's the director of operations. I went back and forth, and I'm just going to call it for me what it was. I'm not going to put this label on anybody else, but for me, it was pride. It was like, well, if I'm not a team leader and if I'm not running one of the top teams, then who am I? How can I go to a conference and you know what I mean? Like, and even just the correcting, like when Tom's like, well, how much is the team going to sell? And I was like, well, I've sold 25 homes.
Yeah.
Like when it doesn't start with a 100, then I'm like, who am I? Like, but that was so I appreciate you sharing that. We don't always have to do what people we respect are doing and that we think are running great businesses. We don't have to try that on for ourselves. We have to decide, like you said, does this fit my sneaker budget? Does
Yeah.
this fit?
And that's, I realized I need to make a lot more money. And I mean, you said pride, the word I was going to use, but I didn't, was ego, right? So I think that those are the two things that like many real estate agents, have big egos. Many have, a lot of pride. And so being able to realize that like your opinions don't pay my bills is something that it takes a while to get to, right? Like, I don't think that anyone's born with that attitude or mindset.
Yeah, thank you
Well,
for sharing. I appreciate it.
yeah, I really like that. And something that I don't know where the quote comes from or anything like that, but I just have know thyself like running through my head right now is in that conversation because as a sort of third party perspective on like watching Kristi and Meryl step away from the traditional team and go into just the Kristi Meryl Kelsey show is I saw both of them actually become more authentic to their strengths and like the freedom that it gave them to go deeper instead of wider for the sake of maintaining face to the peers who loved them anyways. And so there's a real power and magic to that. So we're going to step into the segment that I've been really looking forward to with you, and that's like decision making and accountability, because nothing else matters without those two things sometimes. So and just from the quick 34 minutes that I've known you, you seem like a really intentional person with your decisions. And so for the people listening, how do you decide what to stop doing, what to test, what to grow? How do you make decisions?
So I always try to be two things. And one is that I always try to be decisive, and that when I make decisions, I stick with them. And so with pride and ego and all of the things, sometimes that doesn't always go the way that it should. But I know where that comes from is, back before I worked for myself and I, had a W-2 job, or a real job, as we sometimes like to say. I worked for some people that they would make a decision, and then like by lunchtime that decision was no longer the thing that they wanted us to do, and like it was just, there's always changing priorities or changing goals, and you're just like, you never knew which way was up, right? And so as I became a manager, and then I left that and was an independent contractor, and then once I became a team lead managing people again, like I always wanted to be like, if I had a decision that I made, like I tried to not, I don't want to say not go back on it, but to be a very solid thing before I told everyone the thing, if that makes sense. So I always try to make decisions as quickly as possible. I think I've heard like Hermosi and other, business type people like talk about how, if it's something that costs you less than this, then you need to make the decision in less than 5 minutes. And then if it's this, then it's a, you sleep on it. And if it's this one, you take a week. And like, I don't have a specific framework in that way, but like, if it's something that like isn't going to matter, next week, I'm normally like, okay, let's just do it and get it done. And if it's wrong, we'll deal with it. Um, but I always try to, if it's something that's a little bit more in depth or serious, or it would be a little bit more irreversible, right? Like, try to make sure that I've done all of my research before taking it to the team, or saying this is a new initiative that we're going to do, or getting their opinions too, right? Like, sometimes it's that you need a couple extra opinions before you make that decision. And so I try to have all of that research done and then, go to them at that point.
So, in prepping for you to come on to this episode, obviously I went back and like stalked a bunch of posts and like, I actually went back looking for something specific, but I started to see some patterns emerge. I mean, and it's true, right? That just because you're posting content doesn't mean people don't see it. I follow Katie. I go back to her page frequently. Like I mentioned at the top of this podcast, is I bring my clients to her social media and say, hey, look at this. Like, these are some, and I didn't notice until last night as I was prepping that and this kind of goes into what Kelsey was asking about decision. I feel like you do something, and you can tell me it's not intentional, but I feel like it is. I noticed that every month you post your goals. So this is kind of like a decision making and accountability in one. I was like, this is interesting. She does this little note and she's posting her goals. Obviously, that means that she's decided ahead of time. And then I was like, you know what I bet this does? It reduces decision fatigue. She no longer has to. So if you don't follow Katie, obviously you're going to want to, but she's always what work are we on? Like 2 something of 3 something, and like you have a lot of public accountability because you do put that out there. And so I'm curious, the system, this accountability system that you've put into place, does it reduce decision fatigue? Like, I'm going to work out today because I've already declared it. Like, to bring me behind the scenes of that, please.
Um, yes, but so yes, it does help to reduce all of that. But then now I have 2 kids under the age of 3, and all of those frameworks and things are completely out the window because I haven't had a full night's sleep, like 2 consecutive full nights of sleep, like in 3 years. So, yeah, it's interesting because I have a couple like group texts and the where you send your step count or you send your workout count in like group texts with a couple different people. And right now, I've been super hard on myself because like I'm not going to hit my workout goal for the year. My steps, I try to do 10,000 steps a day. Like December and November have been trash, right? Because of like traveling and doing different things. And so it's like, it's interesting because it's like no one cares if I get 10,000 steps or not in my group text or on Instagram where I've put these goals out. But it's like, it's really tough because it's like internally I'm like pissed that I'm not hitting these things. So, it comes back to Tom Ferry, like business planning 101, right? In like, hey, how do I make sure that I stay accountable to my goals? And it's like you put them up on the office wall so that when people walk by your office, they see how many homes you want to sell if you're in like an office like that, or you put them out publicly, or you do the thing so that like whether or not anyone's watching, like when you're at the gym, if Kristi and I are working out next to each other and we're both doing curls, like my form's going to be better than if I'm standing there by myself, right? She's not watching me in any way. She's over there just struggling with her own curls and I'm struggling with mine, right? But like the fact that we're sitting next to each other, we're both going to be way better form than if we were there by ourselves. I don't know that it's like an intentional like thing, but that's definitely a byproduct of doing it, right? Having like less like this is a thing that I need to do because I've said I'm going to do it. And just figuring it out and or struggling from there.
Yeah. And I think too, and I'm sure you don't need to hear me say this, but like there's still a lot of power even if you don't complete it to 100% like completion. I think when you make things public in terms of your accountability, you still do more than you would have done in private. Like it's better that you hit 285 out of your 305 workouts instead of 62 out of your 305 workouts, And so it's
That's
like
probably true.
it's a yes but it's like a yes but and
Yeah,
so
for sure.
um so there's this thing that I wanted to ask you. There's what's a myth that you've seen over your years of content creation and I guess public accountability that agents or business owners buy into that you've seen disproven? So what's a myth out there that you're like, yeah, that's BS?
That's tough.
Or even something that like you've bought into at one point and then were able to disprove for yourself?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. That's like a head scratcher question. You got me. I think I have two answers. One's like the easy answer that first immediately comes to mind, and then one's a little bit more of a thinker. And so the easy answer, I think, for me, and you mentioned content creation, is that more is better. More is better. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes we think that we just need to create more content in order to get more reach. And you don't always necessarily need to do that. I talked a lot about niching down or creating shareable content. Some of the best content creators, like say a Mr. Beast on YouTube, like, I mean, what does he do? Like one video every few months, right? And like he's probably like the most watched person on YouTube, right? You don't necessarily need to post every single day in order to get reach on content. On the like kind of deeper thought, and I don't know if it's necessarily like a myth or like busting a myth or something like that, but like for me, I've always been historically like a morning workout person. So I would work out at like 5 a.m. So I'd get up at 4. Like I still have the alarm on my phone, but I get up at 4, check my emails, get to the gym by 5, work out, come home, shower, eat breakfast, and face the day. Now my alarm is set for like 6:15, and like I try to get the kids to school, work out, and then start my day. And so it's like an adjustment. And so I think that previously I would be like, oh well, you like have to get up earlier in order to get more done. And for me now it's more, okay, how can I be super efficient with my time between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. when the kids when I have childcare. I mean, Kristi, I think you're probably the poster child for juggling family life and work life and travel. I've figured out, I wouldn't say I've cracked the code, but I figured out like, okay, I'm going to be super, super, super efficient with my time when I have it. Because, once the kids are home, it's like really difficult with a 3-year-old to be holding a phone because then they just want it from you, so like you've got to like kind of
Oh, heck yeah.
have it down and away.
I like that. Okay,
Yeah,
we're going to wrap this up and we're going to go into lightning round. So quick answers.
Boom, boom. Okay.
Katie, what's one habit agents should start today?
Time blocking.
I like it. Okay, what's one piece of technology agents should master?
ChatGPT.
Okay.
If they can only do one thing from today's episode, what should be the one thing that they implement?
Go create content.
Okay. I love it. So here's our take it and run moment for you today is block 30 minutes this week of honesty on like seriously just to decide where you need more accountability in your life and put a habit in place so you're not disrupted by decision fatigue or fear of looking dumb. So that's your take it and run moment from Kristi and I today.
So, Katie, thank you so much for bringing clarity and honesty to the conversation today. Where should people learn more about you? Some of the stuff I know we didn't even scratch the surface of our EVB or any of that, but where can they learn more about you? If they want to send the team referrals, all of that stuff, where's the best place to connect?
Yeah, Instagram at Move Me to Texas, MOVEMETOTX.
Awesome. So this episode only works when you apply it. So pick one idea and move on it this week.
And if you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do that. Also, make sure to check out the show notes and get subscribed to our newsletter where we're dropping new tactical strategies that you can implement every single week.
All right. So, Katie, what do they have to do this week? We set them up. Now they
take it and run.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Katie.